Howdy, Brainiacs. I'm Brian Sellers, and thank you for listening to Brian in Your Brain. I love people. I love talking to people. I love learning about them and what makes them who they are. I interview some of the most interesting and successful people in their respective field. They have great stories and great advice that are locked in their brain, and these are the things that make them bubble to the top. Join me now as we get into their brain.
Launching in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Brian in Your Brain.
Welcome to Brian in Your Brain. I'm your host, Brian Sellers, and today we will get into the brain of our guest, Reid Ryan, president of the Houston Astros. Reid started his baseball career as a bat boy for the Astros, pitched for Alvin High School and the University of Texas, then TCU, and then ultimately drafted by the Texas Rangers and into the minor leagues. Reid had a hunting and fishing show for Fox, and he is into banking, real estate, restaurants, and co-founded the AAA Round Rock Express that is now one of the most successful clubs in the minor leagues. Reid has a huge amount of spare time on his hands. Reid, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Brian. Appreciate you coming down and talking to me today.
Is that true? You don't have a whole lot of spare time, do you?
No, I don't. To be honest with you, I've led a very blessed life, and I've got to do some really cool things. And I've always just been a believer that, I was born into a family, into a situation where I've had a lot of opportunities. And, to look myself in the mirror and to try to say, I'm being the best me I can be. I feel like that I have a high ceiling, and so I've always tried to get the most out of every day, and a lot of that goes back to my childhood when I was hit by a car, and I was in a hospital for a long time. And it was just one of these things where I've said, you know what, I've got one shot at this life, and I'm going to go out. And so my pillars are, I really put a lot of time into work, I put a lot of time into my family, and really, that's about all I have time for. And so I've tried to achieve a lot with both them and with my work.
Sure. And there's a rumor that when you were a child, you took ballet, and your mother covered that as gymnastics.
Yeah,
for the family.
so it was a very traumatic time for me. Actually, I was born and I had a right foot that sort of turned in a little bit. Mm-hmm. And back in the 70s, I was the first child in our family, and so my parents were trying to do all these things that they thought were good for me. So, like sticking me in these orthotic braces that went up my legs and had all these rods and stuff, almost like...
I had a pair of those.
Yeah. Like they thought that was good, and for whatever... good it was doing for me physically, emotionally, it was doing the opposite. So as I had to walk around with those. So then they put me into ballet, but they told me it was gymnastics, and I was the only guy in there. And I realized it when my mom was late to pick me up one day, and the instructor was like, hey, where are your tap shoes? And I was like, tap shoes?
What are we
talking about?
about
I don't have tap shoes. And the guy's like, yeah, because after ballet, we go into tap. And I'm like, I'm not in ballet. I'm in gymnastics.
Right.
And he's like, no, this isn't gymnastics. This is ballet. So my mom and I had words. Of course, I was 5 or 6, and that was the first time that we probably butted heads in a serious manner, and that was my last day of ballet.
Well, and your dad, being Nolan Ryan, what did he think of this?
You know what? He was out playing, traveling, and I think everything that they were doing was, like most parents, you want to do the very best for your kids. And so what they cared about was that I didn't have some kind of physical deformity, and that they were doing everything in their power to try to stretch my legs and do all that kind of stuff. So their heart was in the right place, and actually it just gives me a good opportunity to razz them whenever I feel like it.
And what was your first exposure to baseball that you can remember?
Well, I tell everybody my first memory of baseball was being in spring training and walking up and down the steps and popping wax cups. So when I was born, my dad was with the Mets, and he had the distinction of playing 27 years in the major leagues and having one of the longest careers ever. So when I was born, he was a Major League Baseball player, and then he got traded to the Angels, and we would go to spring training. We lived here in the Houston area. We'd pack up the truck. We'd drive out to Arizona. The Angels would do spring training in Arizona for a couple of weeks, and then they would move into Palm Springs, and they would finish spring training and play their games there. Gene Autry was the owner of the team, and he had a stadium there. And so my earliest memory was back in the day, cups were wax, and they were coated in paper And if you set them on the stands and you stepped on them real hard, they made a popping noise. And so my mom, I guess, just to keep me entertained during the game or after games, would say, "Hey, go stack cups and go pop them." And that was my first memory of baseball, was being at the stands. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. And you had a great responsibility in an early age. Your dad would get you and your brother airline tickets and meet up with you in various cities. Are you and Nicole raising your children the same way? Do your kids use Uber to get to places? And
well, you know what? They're starting to. My 13-year-old daughter just flew to Wyoming by herself, and that was the first time. And I think every kid's different. I was sort of always the leader, and accepted responsibility and took on challenges. And so part of that was at the age and the era that we grew up in, really in the 70s and the 80s. When you have a dad that travels like my father did to play professional baseball, but then we also lived on, kind of a quote-unquote farm. We had 100 acres and we had animals, and so I had responsibilities back at home, and I think I earned their trust at a very early age that, I wasn't going to do anything stupid, and that they could, trust me to take care of my brother and my sister. And so back in the day, my mom would pull up at Hobby Airport. You could walk right to the gate.
Right.
She'd put me on the plane. I'd land with my brother in San Francisco, and they knew I knew how to catch a cab, and I'd go straight to Candlestick Park and get out, and I knew the guy in the parking lot. So, it was a different era back then.
It really was. Yeah, I used to be able to ride my bike to 7-Eleven. I would never let my kids do that today.
Yeah, growing up in Alvin, it was incredible. It was a town of 25,000 people just south of Houston here, and we rode our bike everywhere.
Right.
I mean, it was like having a car when you were 12. With my kids, my son is 15 right now, and we pretty much let him go and do what he wants to do. My daughters are 13, and the other one will be 11 in November. It's different with girls, and with so many, predators out there today, we're a little more protective with them, but we have let the kids stay at home for a long time. We always felt like even by the time they were, 7, 8 years old, that, they knew to lock the door, they knew to call 911, they knew, phone numbers. So we've given them, I think, our own responsibility, just in a different way.
And you mentioned Alvin. You're from Alvin, originally, correct?
Yeah, grew up in Alvin, and so Houston to Galveston is probably about 45, 50 miles, and Alvin is basically halfway between, kind of on the south side of town. And, we had the sort of the Mayberry-esque feel of having one school in your town and having, folks that have lived there for generations, and, you couldn't really get into too much trouble because everybody knew, everybody else.
Yeah.
That was really fun and special. And then we were so close to the city of Houston that, whether it was Rockets or Oilers or Astros or any of the things that you needed, like, nonstop flights, 2 airports, culturally, the zoo, museums, all the things that we got to do on field trips. I tell everybody it was kind of the best of both worlds. I got a small town upbringing, but really in what is now a suburb of the city of Houston.
Sure, and it's growing massively, Alvin. I'm sure you've seen over the years.
Well, it's funny because, when I was here as a kid, I graduated in 1990, 288, which is named Nolan Ryan Highway or whatever. We used to come out of the Astrodome and we wouldn't see a single car. And now that's all Pearland all the way to Manville, and there's like 6 high schools over there, and it's like being, on any freeway in the U.S.
You bet. And I've met most of your immediate family members, and they are extremely humble considering, the attention that your family receives. Where does that come from? Do you think that has a lot to do with, one, your upbringing? I know Ruth and Nolan were very instrumental in your life. Do you think being part of that small town helped you?
Well, I have great parents. I mean, that's the bottom line. I've been blessed. None of us get to choose who our parents are, and so I really hit the parent lottery. My mom and dad have been very instrumental in everything in all of the Ryan kids' lives. But I think what it gave us sort of our kind of grounded, rooted, normal life with somebody who was anything but normal, being the first $1 million player and a Major League Hall of Famer and all those kind of things, was that my dad is one of 6 and my mom is one of 5 kids. And my grandparents used to, when people would say, "Hey, are you proud of your son?" If my dad threw a no-hitter or did something like that, my grandma would say, "I'm proud of all my kids." And my parents always felt like no matter what they did or what we did, we are no different or better than anybody else. We've all been given our own gifts by God, and that, it's up to us to try to make those, make the most of those. But just because your profession is a policeman or your profession is a baseball player or your profession is a professor doesn't make you better than anybody else. We're all equal in the eyes of God, and that we should feel, blessed for our opportunities.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And, I've seen you at home games, and I've seen you walking around and meeting with fans even after the game is over. Is that your way of staying connected to the fan?
Yeah, so I look at the job that I have as president of the Houston Astros. In a lot of way, I am a cheerleader for the organization. I'm a motivator for our employees. I'm a conduit between the media, between our players and management, between our community. And when you're in the major leagues, your community is a lot bigger than the minor leagues. Round Rock, we have tremendous fan support. Corpus Christi, we have tremendous fan support. But there are Astro fans all over the country because, one, all the games are on TV, and two, people have grown up in this community and then moved on, and a lot of them keep their childhood teams. And so I feel like to truly know what's going on with the business, you can't be just sitting in a suite in your ivory tower, sitting there, having people tell you what you want to hear. I need to get out in the community, in the ballpark, and so trust my direct reports. And we have great people that work here in the organization, but sometimes fans won't tell them what they really want to say.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's building trust with a community, and that's what I try to do, is get out and build trust and really find out what our customers want and what they think of the job we're doing.
And I've interviewed, obviously, several people and doing research for this interview, and the number one thing people say is Reid really cares for the fan. So it's obviously showing through.
Well, I mean, look, baseball's given my family everything we have, and so I hold the institution of baseball, and I hold the fans, who are the ones that pay my salary, because without the fans, none of us have jobs in baseball, in very high regard. And so one thing I'm not ever going to do is disrespect this game or disrespect those baseball fans, and so it comes from the heart.
When you came on in May 2013, what did you focus on for the Astros, and how did you prioritize the items to tackle first?
Well, I looked at this organization and where it was, and the Astros have been here over 50 years, and really the mid-'90s through the mid-2000s, they were one of the top organizations in all of baseball, and this organization means a lot to a lot of people. After 2005, things kind of started to go south with the organization, and then with the ownership change and television changing and radio changing, there was just a tremendous amount of change, a lot of front office change, GM, manager, president, and so that makes an uneasiness in the community. People, as a whole, don't like change. They like to know, that their club's the way they like it or whatever, and so I felt like the biggest thing I had to do was get out and build trust with our community again. And so to do that, it's by being consistent and doing what you say and saying what you do and making sure that you kind of walk the walk. And so I looked at my job really as twofold. One, inside the four walls of Minute Maid Park, developing the staff and the people that are here, because we had folks hiding behind their desks because there had been kind of a mass purging of the front office, and letting folks know that, hey, you're valued, your opinions are valued. I'm not a micromanager. I'm the kind of guy that wants to empower people, and so we hire great folks and let them make their own decisions. And so that, to build that trust with people, you have to do it day in and day out and be consistent. And then outside the four walls, I felt like I had to get out to every community, every club, every media member, everybody that the Astros touch, sponsors, fans, season ticket holders, and try to tell them what our vision is, and the same thing, build trust. And so that change, which was very dramatic here, and took us to being from one of the best to one of the worst organizations in baseball, we had to sell them on our plan to rebuild this place, and then we had to be consistent with that message and with what we did. And knock on wood, here we are in September of 2015 as we record this today. And you know what? We have a shot at the playoffs this year, and so a lot of folks have seen that come to fruition.
Right, and it really, you guys have exceeded any expectations that the national media had given you at the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah, so this organization had a plan that started with our owner, Jim Crane, where he looked at the economics of the game of baseball, and you've got to find your slot. Not everyone can be the New York Yankees and compete with those guys for free agents and the things that they do. So Jim recognized our slot, and then he brought in a guy named Jeff Luno, who's our general manager, and Jeff was really good at developing talent from within. And then he brought me in to sort of put a bow on the whole management team and really be the face in the community of this organization. And we've been able to sell people on our plan, and it's come a little bit sooner than we thought. But we have a lot of talent here, and it's been very rewarding to see how many people that this season has affected them in a positive way. And what I love most about the game of baseball is we get to bring joy to people's lives. You know, there's a lot of folks that work that they don't get to bring joy to people's lives, and we all want joy. And so the fact that people leave their cares behind, whether they're watching television for 3 hours and catching an Astros game or they're coming to Minute Maid Park, and they get to escape and come into this world of which is trying to follow a team, enjoying time with, you know, the one you bring to the game or whoever you're watching at home with, and getting to see these guys chase a dream that we all relate to.
Sure. I mean, it's making memories, right? You got a lot of families out here. People have been doing it their entire life.
Yeah, and some of the slogans that we've used over the years, you know, Round Rock was always about making memories one game at a time, because that's really what it's about. It's about the memory you make with the people that you come to the game with. And here this year and last year, our slogan's been more than just a game, because literally we want to win. That's why people come. They want to see good baseball. But there's so much more to it, whether it's fathers and sons having something to talk about, or a reason to get everybody in the office or the church group or the little league team to come out, or whether it's seeing somebody like Jose Altuve, who's one of our best players and is 5'6", and you realize, hey, this game of baseball is a lot like life, that, you know, you don't have to be born a certain way or in a certain family or have, you know, America's great because anyone can make anything if they're willing to work hard and become the best at what they do, and that's what Jose's done. And so that's why we've basically put that slogan out there this year.
And in my experience, presidents and CEOs concentrate on threats and opportunities in their organization. What threats and opportunities did you see starting the 2015 year?
Well, I thought the opportunities were great because we had not been on television for the last couple of years more than just a few homes, and that had to do with kind of a fight with Comcast and
you
the
walked
Rockets.
into that when you first came on board, right?
In the Houston Astros. So we were in this kind of TV battle, and so it really hurt the organization because people couldn't watch. And when they don't have emotional connections with the team, they're not as apt to come out to the game, and they can't follow it on a daily basis. And you know, baseball is like drinking coffee. It's kind of a daily addiction. Once you get started with it, you start following these guys and you build up these emotional bonds. And so to me, that was the opportunity, was to really reconnect with the community and let people see for the first time, because we had been working on this plan for a couple of years, what it was we were wanting to do. I think the threat for our business really is that people's time a lot of times is more valuable than the money they spend to come to a game. And so because of things going on in life, family, work, whether it's traffic or, you know, whatever the challenges are that we have to get somebody's 3 hours of time, that's the threat. And so what we have to do is we have to make sure that we're making a difference. That means in the community. That means that we play the game the right way, where people say, hey, we're getting our money's worth. These guys are hustling. They're diving. This is great entertainment that we have to come be a part of. And then we need to give them lagniappe, which is that Louisiana term, for a little extra, a little something extra. So if their expectation is to show up and, you know, see a ball game and they get a bobblehead, or they come in and they get, you know, our mascot doing some promotion where he's dancing and, you know, doing Beyonce or something, or that the customer service is so over the top that people go, wow, everyone in my family had a good time. Everyone in my company had a good time. This is worth our time. And that's really where I felt like the biggest threat was. And so we attacked all those issues day one.
And I've seen your work ethic. You work hard, and you have success as a result of that hard work. Do you have critics that say you're successful because you're the son of the greatest pitcher to play the game? And what do you say to that?
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. As a kid, if you did well athletically, it was like, hey, you should. You're Nolan Ryan's son. He's one of the greatest pitchers ever. If you didn't, people would be very quick to write you off and say, oh, he's not as good as his dad. And so I've kind of always dealt with that, whether it's business or sports or life in general. And so I kind of had a saying is like, look, being Nolan Ryan's son might get me in the game. There is no doubt. It opens doors that other people don't have the advantage to having opened. but it doesn't get anybody out for you. Once you're on that mound and you're pitching, it's on you.
Yeah.
And, it did not get people out for me in college, and I had a lot of success and was, all conference and got drafted. And it didn't get anybody out for me when I was in the minor leagues my last year, and I couldn't win any ball games, and I was 0-10, and then I was out of the game. So, being Nolan Ryan's son has advantages, but at the end of the day, when you step on that mound, it's up to you to perform.
Well, and you are utilizing the advantage you have, those open doors that have come to you. A lot of people don't take that chance and that leap.
Yeah, I've never been scared to fail, and that's one of the great things my dad used to say all the time is you can't let the failure of your last pitch ruin the success of your next one. And it's something that's kind of stuck in my brain. And look, you know what? Baseball, what I love about it is that it's a game of failure. And if you can learn to not get too high and not get too low and just continue to go about the daily grind and put your heart in the right spot, good things are going to happen. And so, look, I've been blessed. It goes back to the old, saying, to whom much is given, much is expected. And that's what I expect of myself. I have these opportunities that other kids I went to high school with, that other people, I've been around don't have. And shame on me if I don't live up to my full potential.
I think you're well on your way of hitting that potential for sure. Reid, let me ask you a question around sales. You've probably heard the saying that everyone in an organization is in sales. Do you believe that?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. All of us are. Every time we go out in the community, we're representing the Houston Astros or, back in Round Rock with my family businesses, our bank or the Express or whatever it is. And so, yeah, every one of us are selling our story all the time. We're always prospecting. We're always meeting people. And so you never know who, I treat everybody the exact same. And that's the one thing that I've learned from some mentors of mine is, Don Sanders, who was a partner of ours. You treat everybody the same because, one, you don't know where the guy that's parking the cars right now is going to be in 5 years, or you don't know where the intern's going to be in 5 years. And so you never know where that one connection point is going to help you in the sales process and in your business. And at the end of the day, people like doing business with people they like, people they trust, and folks that they know are going to treat them fair. And so, that's kind of been what I've tried to live my life by.
Nice. And hiring the right people in any organization is crucial. What is your technique for weeding people out, if you will?
Yeah, so I've been part of a organization called YPO, Young Presidents Organization, for a long time. And we had a guy early in my professional career named Dr. Bell, who's a professor at North Carolina, and he does a lot of hiring. And he came in, and it was sort of an aha moment where he talked about sort of his hiring principles and philosophies are kind of on three pillars. One is personality, one is work ethic, and one is technical skill. And you cannot change somebody's personality. They're either half full or half empty. And you cannot have somebody develop work ethic that doesn't have it. You can teach anybody to do anything. We can all learn how to read, write, do whatever, take a wrench and turn it left, turn it right, or, put in whatever into the computer. So what I've always focused on is personality and work ethic, and we can teach anybody anything. And so my goal is to have an organization of people that are very positive, that when they come to work, they have a smile on their face. Because at the end of the day, we don't sell anything here that anybody has to have. And if we're not developing, or delivering good customer service, and we're not developing leaders of men in our organization, then you know what? We're going to be in trouble. And you've been to places where everyone's unhappy, they're grumpy, and you don't want to do.
You can tell.
Yeah, you don't want to do business with them. And the other thing is in baseball, as you know, Brian, we work long hours here. I mean, when the homestand's going on, these are 80, 100-hour weeks, and you've got to really have a true work ethic to be in this game. And so that's what we focused on. And the other thing is this is a career, not a job. So this isn't a spot somebody comes and they're like, oh, I think I'm going to try baseball and work here for a little bit. It's a lifestyle and a career, and so you've got to get people that want to be plugged into that.
Yeah.
So it's all about the match.
What is the most difficult part about running this business, Reid? And if you can compare it to AAA, AA even, and then major leagues, what's the most difficult part about running baseball?
So the businesses are all the exact same. It's just how many zeros on the back of the numbers,
right.
To be honest with you. Sure. And it's all about people. All of my issues come with people. And no matter how good a manager you are, you're dealing with a lot of human beings that have ups and downs, highs and lows, things that happen in their life. And so you have to be very good with people. And so my mantra has been, I'm not a micromanager. I like to hire better. I don't want to manage more. I don't have time to make every decision in this organization. So we have to hire good people and then give them the tools to be successful. But I would say from the business itself, the hardest thing with baseball and the most important thing is managing cash flow, because this is not like a normal business where you have, money come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you don't have any on the weekends or whatever. We have these big spikes and swings, and then we have this massive cash burn, and then we'll have big spikes and swings. So you sort of have to be very good at making sure you have plenty of powder and that you keep it dry, because you don't know when things are going to break, when something's going to happen within your organization, and the show must go on. And so, if we say we're playing at 7:10 on Thursday night, we're playing a game at 7:10 Thursday night, and that normally means you got to manage your people and you got to make sure you got enough cash to keep the lights on.
Yeah, you bet. Especially in the off season, right? I'm sure that's that dip you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. We really make all of our money between April and the 1st of October.
And being a business owner in your own ventures and as a business leader here at the Astros, you have to make tough decisions sometimes. Employees may not understand them. Fans don't. Maybe they don't know both sides of the story. What is your process for making those tough decisions? Do you have a method of you check, the facts? Obviously, how do you go through that?
I just feel like right is right and wrong is wrong. And when it comes down to dealing with people, I manage with kind of a red light, green light system, yellow light, like, hey, look, you guys have the green light for everything. Here's the yellow light. If you're going to make a decision, you own it. It's your decision. Just let me know. And here are the criteria on that. Yeah. If you're raising prices or you're doing whatever. And then here's the red light. Do not do any of these things without coming to me. And there's very few red light issues. And so I think being clear up front with expectations of what, the goals are and what you're trying to do, I think helps, because it keeps you out of problems early. But when something comes up, I just go back to, is it right? Is it fair? Have we given, everybody an opportunity? And I want people to make mistakes in this organization. I want them to feel empowered to go out and make decisions, and that they're not playing scared or that they're going to be fired or in trouble, because then you don't ever live up to your full potential. So I want people to go out and do their very best to try to push the envelope. And look, if we do make mistakes, we'll talk about it, come back. Now, if we repeat those mistakes, then that's when we'll have an issue and when we might have to make a change. But for me, it's, can everybody play in the sandbox together? Is their heart in the right spot? And that's on me for hiring them and bringing them in. And is their vision aligned with ours? And then after that, empower them to go get it done. And if they make a mistake, we'll come back and learn from it.
Sure. Reid, now it's time to get into your brain.
Okay, there we go.
And I'm going to start with an off-the-wall question, kind of off topic here. If you knew you were going deaf, what is the last song you would choose to listen to?
Oh, man, that going deaf. What is the last song I would listen to? Golly, I'm not a huge music guy, so it's not like I have any great songs that I'm like really, really love. But
this is probably your all-time favorite song,
I don't know. Probably it would be, I'd have to probably go back to country, even though I do like a little bit of pop and rap and everything else. I'd probably go with like a George Strait song, something like that.
Oh, fantastic. You mentioned this a little bit earlier. When you were 7, you were run over by a car and really nearly died from that accident. How did that incident impact your life?
Well, I mean, it changed me. It made me the person that I am today. And so my dad was playing with the Angels. We lived in California, and I had just gotten my first baseball uniform ever. It was Villa Park Pee Wee. And some other kids and I were in the yard playing hot boxes, which is where you have 2 bases and I get runners in between, and you practice tagging them out. And these biker kids who were teenagers came down the street and were kind of making fun of us, bullies, and they started grabbing our shirts and they were trying to rip our uniforms off of us. And so I broke away from this one kid and tried to run across the street to my house, and this 16-year-old girl had just got her car and turned the corner, and she ran me over. And so I ended up having a broken leg, lost my kidney and my spleen, and I was in the hospital about 10 weeks. But I remember waking up in the street, my leg broken, femur, which is one of your big bones. Paramedics there cutting my pants off, and I just remember my mom there and just, screaming, don't let me die, don't let me die. And so in a lot of ways, I felt like at that point, God had a plan for my life. And that, this happened for a reason, even in an early age, and I don't know why I felt that way. Maybe it was because it was the first time I really prayed to God and talked to God, and I felt that when I got out of the hospital, that I had a responsibility to myself and to Him to try to be the very best person I could be and achieve something in life, that I had been saved to do something positive. Also, I felt as though when you're in the hospital for as long as I was, and you're in a body cast.
You said 10 weeks,
10
right?
weeks, yeah.
10 weeks.
And
Wow, as a 7-year-old.
Yeah, and
no Xbox.
no Xbox,
Right.
no Nintendo,
Right.
no cable television. I mean, it was jigsaw puzzles and coloring books. I just said, I'm going to live every day to the fullest. I don't want to let a day go by, no matter how short or long this life is, that I don't try to maximize the day. Sure. And when my head hits the pillow, I want to be exhausted. And when I get up in the morning, I want to be ready to go. So for knock on wood, I'm 43 today, and for the most part, I don't know a day's gone by that I haven't lived that mantra.
And does baseball have life lessons?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I think that's one of the allures of the game of baseball. I mean, every single day, you're out there competing, no different than the competition that you have in life. And you can do your very best job, and you can be an unbelievable pitcher. No one can hit you. But if there's not a catcher that can catch you, then you know what? You're only as strong as your weakest link. You can go out and do your job, but if you don't score any runs, your team's going to lose. You can do your very best and, hit the ball absolutely as hard as you can, and someone can catch it. And so I think the life lessons of goal setting, of dealing with failure, of having to work with others within the game of baseball, never being out. There are people that get diagnosis of cancer all the time, and you and I both have some mutual friends that have been through that. Well, in a lot of ways, when the Rangers, lost the World Series in 2011 to the Cardinals, they were down to their last strike. The Cardinals were one pitch away from being out of it, and they came all the way back to win not only Game 6, but Game 7 and be the world champs. They didn't give up. And so the parallels of life and baseball really go together because there's no clock in baseball, at least one that dictates the end of the game. Football, you could be down 50-0 and the clock's running down and you're not going to win. In baseball, you always have a shot. And so I think those are the things that are the subconsciously people are drawn to within this game.
And what's your personal support structure? Like, who do you go to first for advice?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's interesting. I have a good relationship with my dad. He's kind of the guy that I go to when I want to bounce something off of him because his compass points north so much. My mom would tend to be the one that if I needed love, I would go to as a kid. If you needed a shoulder to cry on, that was kind of my mom. And then as you grow in your life, my brother and I have a very close relationship. We've worked together for a long time. Like my dad, he will give me his unbiased opinion of things that I need in life. And my wife is the same way. She's very good at basically, knocking me back down to size. And she's a real
wives have a way of doing that.
Yeah, she's good about that. But also her opinion is one that's not biased. And so I have a great support system. And then I've been involved with a couple of groups and have some really good friends. I have a lot of acquaintances. I don't have a lot of what I'd call really like super good friends because I just don't have time for friends, to be honest with you. When you work the hours I work and you're the type of family man that I am, there's not a lot of stuff that I don't play golf. I don't do a lot of that kind of stuff. So I don't have like the boys club, but I have a lot of acquaintances and one or two that I can really go to that I consider good friends that will shoot me straight and don't care about needing tickets to a game or anything like that. What they want is they want the best for Reid Ryan.
And who influenced you the most in your life?
I think you get influence as you go along the way. The work ethic and treating people, the way I want to be treated. A lot of that came from my mom and dad, but Don Sanders has been a big influence on me. He's a guy that was an angel investor for me when I started the Round Rock Express. He's been in a lot of our deals that we've done as a family.
Former owner of the Astros,
he
Don
was
Sanders.
one of the owners of the Astros when my dad played, and he treats people so well. He came from nothing in Mahia, Texas, to becoming one of the owners of the Astros, and he treats everybody from the janitor to the president of the United States the same. And so I learned a lot from Don about people. And then I think there have been mentors along the way, like Jay Miller, who I worked with for a long time, king of customer service. I've learned a lot here from Jim Crane and how to run a business and not be wasteful. Jim is very efficient with what he does. People that I have been associated along the way in life. So there have been a lot of mentors, but I don't have that one guy that's like my Yoda that I go to all the time.
Sure. And you have several leadership qualities, and one of those is your competitiveness. Have you learned to harness that competitiveness to your advantage in business? Or is it out of control and you're racing old ladies at the stoplight and beating you up on your kids on Xbox?
Yeah.
How are you doing with that?
You know what? It's a challenge, to be honest with you. I'll tell you, the hardest thing about being out of sports, professional, college, or even high school, and I got to see it with my dad. He played Major League Baseball 27 years, and I was fortunate enough to get to play, at a high level, Division I, and then got drafted and played a couple years in the minor leagues. Once your career is over, nothing will ever fill that void of competition. And when you go do something, whether it's, you and I were kidding before the interview started about softball when we played against your brother and stuff, or basketball in a city league or any of that kind of stuff, it never fills that void of being at the highest level or being at an extremely high level and working hard and then going mano a mano. And so I think in a lot of ways success in business can be powered by that, but it's just not the same. And so I think it's a recognition that, look, there's more to life than me just testing myself against everybody else. Now,
Sure.
Driving-wise, oh, yeah, I blow the old ladies off the stoplight, yeah, and have my kids shoot them down with the fake guns.
Right.
But we're trying to quit that. But, yeah, there's points where
great.
things come out in life. But,
Yep.
success is it's funny because everyone likes to be measured and you like to compete, and the rest of the world doesn't compete the same as athletes do.
Yeah. Well, and apparently you still have it, Reid, because both of my brothers played against you in softball and said that you threw them out from left field at home. So that's a pretty good throw. I'd say you still got a little arm on you.
I'm embarrassed that happened. Nobody's supposed to know I'm playing softball. So, yeah, but that was fun. It was the old office softball game. But, yeah, anyway,
Awesome.
I can chalk that one up.
Hey, what is your release from the day-to-day stresses that you face?
So the only thing I do for myself, like if Reid, what do you do? I work out. That's the one thing. I try to work out every single day for an hour. And to me, it's not as much as like, hey, look, I've got great cardiovascular system or I'm building muscle. It's a stress relief. It's a time where no one's texting me, no one's emailing me, no one's calling me. I turn my phone off. And whether it's, here at the Minute Maid Park, we've got an awesome workout facility here for our employees, or if it's at home, I have a gym. It's me time. And that's really what I enjoy. I think you need that because when you break up your day and you're sleeping, 6 to 8 hours and you're working, 8 to whatever hours, and then you got a little bit of time for your family, there's really not any time left for you. And because we work weekends, and when I'm not working weekends, my kids are all playing competitive sports on the weekends, that 1 hour a day is kind of my sacred time that I get to recharge my batteries.
And do you do that in the morning to start your day, or is that whenever you can get it in?
Whenever I can get it in, but what I like to do is do it about somewhere either 4 or 5 o'clock because I'll get to the office here at Minute Maid Park during the season anywhere from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning, and that depends on how late the game went the night before.
Sure.
I like to work out before the gates open because it gives me that shot of energy because, we've already worked basically a 9 to 5 day, and then the gates open at 5:30, and here come the people. We're going to be another 5 hours at the ballpark or whatever it is from the time the game starts. So I got to have that. That's my time to sort of get re-energized before people come in the door.
And do you have a technique or a routine for getting good sleep? You've got a lot of stress during the day, during the week.
I sleep great. I'm telling you, I have no problem going to sleep. And I think that's very, very important. I am a night owl because being in baseball is sort of like being a bar owner. You know, even if our game ends early, I'm watching the scores on the other games, and you know, you're always tracking where you are.
Right.
So I tend to go to bed every night, probably between 11:30 and 12:30 at night, and then I try to get up anywhere from 7:30 to 8:30. And as soon as I get up, I just come straight to the office. So, you know, that's kind of my routine. We have a cafe here. I eat breakfast mainly here at the stadium. You know, and that's what happens. That's kind of the routine.
And what was the last book that you read that you enjoyed?
So actually, I love reading. That's one of the things I like to do. I do a ton of reading, and I like a lot of nonfiction. I'm actually reading a book right now called The Duel, one that my kids had at school that I thought was pretty cool, and it's about Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, two guys during the American Revolution. I read a very interesting book a few weeks ago on some guys that were actually treasure hunters and went down and found a pirate ship in the Caribbean and Dominican Republic. You guys may have seen the guy on TV as a show on Discovery Channel. I'm big into read all the Bill O'Reilly books. I like Malcolm Gladwell, the Freakonomics books. Those are the kind of things I really like. I will dip into some fiction every now and then, but I tend to, like Grissom or Patterson or those kind of guys.
Take a release, maybe?
Yeah.
Help you get away a
yeah,
little bit?
But really, I'm a nonfiction guy. I love learning from other people's stories, and I think true life is so much better than anything you could ever dream up.
And on your phone, what app do you use the most?
Wow. So I'm pretty consistent on the apps. I don't have a ton, but I'm pretty religious with them. So here's kind of my apps. The MLB at Bat app every day. The Yahoo Sports app, because I'm a huge college football fan, and I'm always reading college football stories. Instagram, that's how I keep up with my kids. And then Twitter, how I keep up with basically everything going on with the Astros, because that's become the spot where fans come to voice their displeasure, their things they're happy about, things they think should happen with the organization. So that's probably my my four apps that I use the most.
And is there something you do in your life that you don't think other people necessarily do? For instance, I mentioned in my last podcast that I tip my dental hygienist. I also mow my own lawn to really remind me to be humble, right? And that I appreciate my job indoors. Is there something you do that's unique to Reid Ryan?
That people wouldn't know I do? Is that what you're
saying?
saying?
Or something that you people don't normally do.
Yeah, the one thing I tend to kind of end my day with every day is I walk my dog at the end of the night when I get home. I mean, that's kind of, I guess, right before I go to bed, a quiet time that I go out and walk my dog. I'm pretty normal, I feel like I do tip pretty well, always 20% just because I know that these servers work very hard. But, there's nothing, I live kind of an interesting life because the amount of hours that I work at the ballpark, I have to have a lot of people, help clean my pool and cut my yard because we're 20 days on and, when we're in the middle of a big homestand or we have something like concerts
you wouldn't be able to
going
keep
on.
up, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm a pretty normal guy. I mean, I love being around my kids and my family, and I love coaching kids. So, yeah, I don't have any kind of quirky anything that probably people would be surprised at.
Well, I think walking the dog, I mean, if that's the time you take to be with yourself and just relax a little bit.
Yeah, there's people that they know
release.
I come out, and I actually don't walk the dog on a leash. I ride my bike because our dog's a little hyper, and she chases me. So I kind of ride around the neighborhood on a mountain bike at midnight every night.
So many people go through their entire life at a job that they don't enjoy. What's it like to be doing what you love?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've always done, and as you read my bio before, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, and I was able to play professionally but didn't play in the major leagues. I got out and wanted to work in television. I was able to achieve that, and I worked for the Rangers and on ESPN, and I did fishing shows, and that was a lot of fun. And then it's kind of like, all right, I did that. I want to try something new. Was able to go out and start the Express and work in family business, have started and sold a couple of banks and a couple of baseball teams. And so this was an opportunity to come work for somebody else. I'd been working for myself for 20 years, to come down and be a part of something bigger than myself. My childhood team, so many people in my community where I grew up here in Houston, love this team, and just to be able to put my stamp and compete at the highest level was something that attracted me. But I don't think this will be the last chapter of my professional life. I think these jobs have shelf lives to them. And, how long is that? Is that a 10-year run? Is that a 5-year run? I don't know. But I feel like there's other things that I want to try to accomplish and do in life. And I've always been the firm believer that, if you don't take the shot, you never know if you're going to make it. And so I'm not afraid to take the shot.
Another off-the-wall question for you. Let's say you were president for a day and no lobbyists or Congress to get things through. What would you do to benefit the United States today?
Well, there's a lot of things, Brian. Let's see what I would do. I would probably reform our tax system, because I think our tax system is, when so many normal people have to get help with their taxes, and the fact that our system is one that I think we should have a more fair tax system and probably rein in the spending of Washington. I don't think that our founders felt like the government we have today probably was the one that they dreamed up. And not to get all political on the podcast here, but I think that people make good decisions when they have their own money and their own financial interest at heart. And people want to invest in their communities. They want to invest in small business. They want to be able to do all those things. But there's a lot of regulations and there's a lot of rules today. And so what's great about America is we give so much money to charity, and we are not afraid to give people, a hand when they need it. What people in America don't want are for people to make that a career. And so I think there's some of the things that I would probably tackle if I was president for a day.
I think most Americans would probably agree with you on that. A very good friend of yours, whose wife, and it's a mutual friend of ours, was recently diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. He received a call from you telling that you told him that you believe in the power of prayer and you wanted to get the word out. For one, I was amazed at the support that they received from you and the baseball community. Can you tell us about your friend Chris Almendarez and his wife Jana, and what got Team Jana off the ground, really?
Yeah, Chris and Jana are wonderful people, and I think when you look at somebody who's in their mid-40s and their kids are just starting college and high school, and they see all the fun things that lay ahead of them in life, nobody thinks that brain tumor, inoperable, are things that are going to be talked about in their life at that time. And so I think it hits home with all of us. Jana is a wonderful person, and I believe in the power of prayer. And I think every one of us, we're all terminal. We're not going to live forever in this world, and so I think it's about how you lead your life. And miracles happen all the time, and I think for her, it's finding out what is the treatment options, what can you do here, what do you expect. And I'm not saying that any of this is going to be easy, but I believe that all of us are here for a purpose, and the way that she's handled herself since she's had this and the way Chris has handled himself has brought a lot of awareness to cancer, to brain tumors. It's made a lot of people in the game of baseball appreciate those that do for others, and that's what Chris and Jana do. They do a lot for others. And people want to show their support and let her and him know that they're praying for them, that they care about them, and that they're loved. And at the end of the day, that's all we all want to be, is loved. And so, Team Jana is something, that a lot of people have gotten started. It's just a way of showing support for her. And so far things have been going pretty good for them. But we know it's a long fight, and that these type of things are not easy.
Right, and that's Chris Almendarez, is the GM of the Round Rock Express AAA club.
Yep.
So can you tell me about the Astros Foundation?
Yeah, so when Jim Crane, our owner, bought the club here from Drayton McLean, he wanted to start a new foundation and really have three pillars, one being youth baseball, one being the military, and one being cancer. And so the first thing that Jim wanted to do when he started the Astros Foundation was go into the city of Houston. And if you look at baseball today, baseball's flourishing in a lot of places, suburbs, places where, kids and parents, have the ability to go out and play these travel teams and play competitive schedules. In a lot of ways, sort of league baseball where you just show up and have fun baseball has been pushed aside by really competitive baseball with, kids that play year-round. And not that that's bad, because these kids like baseball and they're getting great instruction. But the sort of league baseball, and especially in a lot of the inner city parts of our major cities around the country, have died. And so we started our Community Leaders Program, where we partnered with large companies within the city of Houston to come in and make a grant where the Astros would manage and run the program, and we would come in and basically do a home makeover on their Little League complex. City of Houston-owned fields. And we've
Grass
come in,
and all, huh?
grass,
Come in and-
lights, dugouts, uniforms, the whole deal. And then the company behind it, we have, Halliburton and NOV and Calpines and a bunch of these other companies where they would come in and then their employees would be involved in that league. And so it's been a great start. We wanted to do 8 fields we've done so far. You're gonna get me to having to go check it up, but we have a new one coming up with ConocoPhillips at the end of this month. And so it's been a great program. Then we moved into kids cancer. We've partnered with Craig Biggio, who's our Hall of Famer here with the Astros. Went in this year. He's been involved with Sunshine Kids for over 20 years. And Sunshine Kids, help kids with cancer and their families as they go through a childhood cancer fight. Excuse me. And so we're going to be doing a golf tournament to partner with those guys. And then we've done a lot of stuff with the military and their families. We had a deployment ceremony here at Minute Maid Park. And so those have become our pillars. And what we're wanting to do with the Astros Foundation is really establish that we are part of the city of Houston, that we have some major initiatives that we take part in, and that we're out front and that we're trying to make Houston a better place.
That's great. That's great, Reid. Listen, congratulations to the Astros organization and your team here on a great season thus far. And really appreciate your time today.
All right, Brian, it's an honor to get to come on the show, and best of luck to you.
Thanks, man.